The message came on a Tuesday morning. It arrived not with a bang, but with a soft ping on the monitors at the SETI facility in New Mexico. At first, Dr. Olivia Bennett thought it was just another false alarm. After 15 years of scanning the stars for signs of intelligent life, she had grown used to disappointment. But this signal was different. It repeated with perfect precision, following mathematical sequences that could not occur naturally. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth confirmed it. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. "We need to respond," Olivia said, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she worked to decode the alien transmission. The room around her buzzed with activity as her team gathered data. 6 days later, they had their answer. The message came from a group calling themselves the Alderian Collective. They claimed to control thousands of star systems and had been watching Earth for decades. Now they wanted to talk. Admiral William Carter didn't like it one bit. He stood in the White House Situation Room with his arms crossed, watching the president and her advisors debate their response. "They're parked their ships behind Jupiter," he said, pointing to the satellite images. "Why hide if they come in peace?" The president sighed. "Maybe they're being cautious. We haven't exactly shown ourselves to be the most peaceful species. Or maybe they're sizing us up," Carter replied. Either way, the decision was made. Earth would send representatives to meet the aliens. Dr. Bennett was the natural choice to lead the communications team. She had decoded their language faster than anyone thought possible. "I can speak with them," she told the United Nations Security Council. "Their language follows logical patterns, different from ours, but not impossible to learn." Captain Samuel Green was chosen to represent Earth's military interests. At 35, he was young for such responsibility, but his record was spotless. He had a calm head and quick thinking that his superiors valued. The final member of the core team was Richard Maxwell, a veteran diplomat with experience in the world's tensest negotiations. If anyone could read between the lines of alien diplomacy, it would be him. "Pack light," Maxwell told the others as they prepared to board the shuttle that would take them to the Alderian vessel. "But bring your wits." The journey to Jupiter took just 2 days, thanks to the advanced propulsion system the Alderians had shared as a gesture of goodwill. As Earth shrank to a blue dot behind them, Olivia felt a mixture of excitement and fear. "Do you think they're really peaceful?" she asked Captain Green as they watched stars streak by their viewport. Green's face remained neutral. "I think they're advanced enough that if they wanted us gone, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The Alderian ship was massive. It dwarfed anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 5 miles from end to end. Its gleaming surface reflected the distant sun, creating patterns of light that seemed to move with purpose. As their shuttle approached, a voice came over their communication system. The translation was perfect, with only the slightest mechanical quality. "Welcome, children of Earth. We have awaited this meeting for many cycles." The docking procedure went smoothly. When the airlock doors opened, the human delegation got their first look at an alien species. The Alderians stood nearly 7 feet tall, with smooth blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and dark, with no visible pupils. "I am Krelvor, Supreme Chancellor of the Alderian Collective," said the tallest of the aliens, bowing slightly. "We welcome you to the galactic community." Richard Maxwell stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this historic opportunity." As they were led deeper into the ship, Captain Green noticed how the other species they passed seemed to make way for the Alderians. It wasn't respect he saw in their movements, but something else. Something that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Fear. Dr. Bennett was too focused on the linguistic patterns in the Alderian speech to notice. But as they entered a vast chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien worlds, she couldn't help but feel that something wasn't quite right. The words said "welcome" and "peace," but something in their tone suggested otherwise. The grand hall of the Alderian ship glittered with strange metals unknown to Earth science. Dr. Bennett, Captain Green, and Richard Maxwell sat at a long table across from their hosts. Other alien species lined the walls, silent observers to this historic meeting. For 10,000 years, the collective has brought peace and prosperity to the galaxy, said Krelvor, his four arms moving in graceful patterns as he spoke. We have united over 3,000 worlds under our guidance. Richard Maxwell nodded politely. Earth is honored by your interest in us, though we wonder why you chose now to make contact. Krelvor's large eyes blinked slowly. Your species has reached the necessary development stage. Your world has resources valuable to the collective. Olivia listened carefully to the translation in her earpiece. Something was off about the way certain words were being converted. The Aldarian word for guidance seemed to have multiple meanings, yet the translation matrix always chose the most benign interpretation. I would love to learn more about your language directly, she said suddenly. May I access your linguistics database as part of our cultural exchange? The Aldarians glanced at each other before Krelvor answered. Of course. Knowledge is freely shared in the collective. After the initial meeting, the humans were shown to their quarters. The rooms were luxurious but felt somehow cold and impersonal. Did you notice how none of the other species spoke? Captain Green said quietly once they were alone. Not one word. Maxwell nodded. And did you see their body language? Those weren't equals at that table. I need to get into their language database, Olivia said. The translation isn't right. They're hiding something. Later that day, they were given a tour of the massive ship. Their guide was a smaller Aldarian named Jevnar, who explained the ship's various functions with rehearsed precision. And these are our agricultural levels, Jevnar said as they entered an enormous open space filled with strange plants and small creatures tending to them. Who are they? Asked Olivia, pointing to the workers. Zilarians. They joined the collective 800 years ago. They have natural farming abilities. Captain Green noted how the Zilarians kept their eyes downcast. They don't look happy to be part of your collective. Happiness is a complex concept across species, Jevnar replied smoothly. As they continued the tour, Richard Maxwell deliberately dropped behind. When the group turned a corner, he slipped into an empty corridor. Years of diplomatic missions to hostile regions had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming that something was wrong. He found what looked like a computer terminal and quickly took out a device Dr. Bennett had given him. It attached to the alien interface and began running translation algorithms. The screen flickered to life. Maxwell had only minutes before his absence would be noticed. He quickly searched for information about Earth and found thousands of files dating back centuries. The Aldarians hadn't just discovered Earth. They had been monitoring it for generations. He downloaded as much data as he could before hurrying to rejoin the tour group. No one seemed to have noticed his brief disappearance. That night, the three humans met in Olivia's room. They kept their voices low, aware that they might be monitored. I got into their language matrix, Olivia said. The word they translate as partner species is the same word they use for resource deposits. We're not being welcomed as equals. We're being inventoried. Maxwell's face was grim as he showed them the files he'd stolen. Look at these reports on other worlds. Initial resource assessment, integration timeline, resistance suppression, population control measures. Captain Green studied the images of once vibrant planets now stripped of forests and minerals. They drain worlds dry, and the people become workers, like those farmers we saw. We need to warn Earth, Olivia said. But how? They're monitoring all our communications. Green's expression hardened. First, we play along. We need more information. Tomorrow, we smile and nod, and act like we have no idea what they're really planning. Maxwell looked at the door, as if expecting it to burst open any moment. And then what? Then we show them that humans aren't like the other species they've encountered, Green said firmly. We need to find their weakness. Every empire has one. Outside the window of their quarters, Jupiter's great red spot swirled in eternal storm. Earth was a distant blue dot, unaware of the danger now facing it. The clock was ticking. The next morning, the human delegation was summoned to the main chamber. The room was even more crowded than before. Representatives from at least 20 alien species lined the walls, their eyes fixed on the humans with expressions Olivia couldn't quite read. "Today is a momentous occasion," Krelvor announced, his voice echoing in the vast hall. "Today, Earth joins the Great Aldarian Collective." A large document appeared on the screen before them. It was written in both Aldarian and English. "The Integration Treaty," Krelvor explained. "A simple formality. All species sign it when they join us." Richard Maxwell leaned forward, scanning the text. On the surface, it looked reasonable enough. Earth would receive advanced technology in exchange for reasonable resource sharing. The treaty promised protection from cosmic threats and full membership in the galactic community. Captain Green noticed the word "reasonable" appeared 15 times without ever being defined. "May we have a moment to discuss this privately?" Maxwell asked politely. Krelvor's expression didn't change. "Of course, but there is little to discuss. The terms are standard for all new members." The humans were led to a small side room. As soon as the door closed, they huddled together. "It's a trap," Olivia said immediately. "I've analyzed the dual language text. The Aldarian version has completely different meanings from the English translation. They're not even close." Maxwell nodded grimly. "The real version gives them complete control of Earth within 10 years. All our resources, our labor, everything." "We need more time," Green said. "We can't sign this, but outright refusal might put Earth in immediate danger." When they returned to the main chamber, Maxwell spoke carefully. "We appreciate this opportunity, but Earth's customs require our leaders to ratify any treaty. We must return home to complete this process." Krelvor's eyes narrowed slightly. "That won't be necessary. You three were chosen as Earth representatives. You have full authority to sign." "There seems to be a misunderstanding," Green said, stepping forward. "We were sent to establish contact, not surrender our planet." The room went completely silent. Even the air seemed to still. "Surrender." Krelvor's voice was soft now, dangerous. No one spoke of surrender. "This is a partnership." Olivia couldn't stay quiet any longer. "We know what your partnerships really mean. We've seen what happened to the Solarians and the others. You drain worlds until they're empty shells." For a moment, no one moved. Then Krelvor smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Very observant for such a young species. Yes, Earth has much we desire. Your world is particularly rich in resources we need, and your people will make excellent workers." Green stood tall, despite being much shorter than the Aldarian leader. "Earth will never submit to this." Krelvor seemed almost amused. "Hundreds of civilizations have said those exact words. All of them now serve the collective. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys compared to ours. Resistance is pointless." He pressed a button, and the screen changed to show images of Earth cities. "We already have ships positioned throughout your solar system. You have 30 days to accept our terms, or we begin what we call pacification." Maxwell stepped forward. "Let us return to explain the situation to our people. They deserve to know." "You will remain here as our honored guests," Krelvor said, his tone making it clear they were now prisoners. "Your communications devices will be held for safekeeping." Guards appeared at the doors. The humans were escorted back to their quarters, which now had armed Aldarians posted outside. "Well, that went as expected," Green said once they were alone. "Now what?" Olivia sat on the edge of her bed, thinking hard. "They didn't find my backup communicator. It's small, disguised as a normal airing. If I can boost its signal, maybe we can warn Earth." Maxwell looked out at the stars. "Even if we do, what chance do we have against their technology? They've conquered thousands of worlds. They've never met humans before," Green said, a determined look in his eyes. "That's their mistake. We need to get off this ship." Olivia nodded. "I have an idea. but it's going to be dangerous. Outside their window, Earth continued its silent journey around the sun, unaware that the countdown to its freedom had already begun. Vice Admiral Patricia Hernandez was in the middle of her morning coffee when the emergency signal came through. At first, it seemed like static, but the pattern was unmistakable. It was the coded distress call they had established before the delegation left. "Play it again," she ordered, putting down her cup. The message was broken and brief, but clear enough. Hostile intent. Treaty is trap. 30 days until attack. Preparing escape. Hernandez didn't waste time. Within an hour, she had assembled the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President in the underground command center beneath the Pentagon. "We've lost contact with our delegation," she explained, "but they managed to send this warning. The Aldarians are not allies." The President looked pale. "How do we fight an enemy with technology thousands of years ahead of ours?" "With Protocol Thermopylae," Hernandez said firmly. The room went quiet. Protocol Thermopylae was the most classified contingency plan ever created, developed after decades of theoretical work on how humanity might survive first contact gone wrong. "You're authorized to implement immediately," the President said after a moment. "God help us all." Within hours, the plan was in motion. Every major nation received coded orders. Scientists and engineers worldwide were mobilized. Military forces began quiet preparations, moving key assets to hardened facilities deep underground or hidden in mountains. Dr. Eric Donovan wasn't expecting the knock on his door that night. The physicist had been considered brilliant but too unorthodox by the scientific community. His theories about quantum entanglement had been dismissed as impossible. "Dr. Donovan," said the serious-looking woman at his door, "your country needs you." 2 days later, he found himself in a secret facility carved into the Appalachian Mountains, standing before the most advanced laboratory he had ever seen. Dozens of the world's top scientists were already at work. "Your theories were right," said General Dwayne Robinson, who led him through security. "The Aldarians use quantum principles we barely understand, but you suspected they existed years ago." Donovan looked at the equipment in awe. "You want me to weaponize my research. We want you to save humanity," Robinson replied simply. Across the world, similar scenes played out. In the Sahara Desert, another team worked on propulsion systems based on the little data they had on Aldarian ships. In underwater bases beneath the Pacific, engineers developed new materials that might withstand alien weapons. Meanwhile, the public was told only that the delegation was still in diplomatic talks. Life continued normally on the surface, but underground, humanity prepared for war. On day 15, an Aldarian ship entered Earth orbit. It broadcasted a message to all radio frequencies. "People of Earth, your representatives have learned of the benefits of joining the Aldarian collective. We bring you prosperity and advancement. You have 15 days remaining to prepare for integration." The ship released a smaller vessel that landed near the United Nations building in New York. From it emerged a single Aldarian diplomat with a revised treaty. The terms were the same, but now presented without pretense. Earth would surrender its resources and become a subject world. General Robinson met with the alien personally. "We're still considering your offer," he said, showing nothing of his true thoughts. "Our planet has many different nations. It takes time to reach agreement." The Aldarian seemed annoyed, but accepted this explanation. 15 days, he repeated before returning to his ship. Back in the mountain facility, Dr. Donovan made a breakthrough. "Their quantum technology has a weakness," he explained to Vice Admiral Hernandez. "They use particles in a specific configuration we can disrupt." "Can we build something in time?" she asked. Donovan nodded slowly. "If we have enough rare earth materials and the best engineers, it will be close." On the Aldarian mothership, the human delegation was putting their escape plan into action. Captain Green had been carefully observing the guards' routines. Dr. Bennett had modified her hidden communicator to interfere with the ship's door mechanisms, and Richard Maxwell had been gathering intelligence from other captive species through careful conversation during their brief exercise periods. The Aldarians had never encountered a species that refused to either immediately surrender or launch a doomed frontal attack. Humanity's measured response confused them, and that confusion was about to become Earth's greatest advantage. On the Aldarian mothership, Captain Green studied the air vent in his quarters for the 5th time. It was just wide enough for a human to crawl through. The guards checked on them only once every 6 hours. That gave them a narrow window to act. Tonight, he whispered to Olivia and Richard during their brief exercise period. The guard rotation changes at midnight. The new guards are always late by about 3 minutes. Olivia nodded. My device is ready. It will jam their security systems for maybe 5 minutes. Not long. Richard had memorized the path to the shuttle bay from his stolen data. Bay 12 has the smallest ships, easier to fly, harder to detect. When night came, they waited in tense silence. The guard checked in at exactly 12 o'clock, then left. Green counted down 3 minutes, then nodded to Olivia. She activated her modified earring. A soft pulse of energy disrupted the door lock. Green pushed it open, checking the corridor. Empty. Move, he whispered. They crawled through maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main hallways. Twice they froze as Aldarian patrols passed nearby. Richard led them through a maze of corridors that grew narrower as they approached the outer sections of the ship. Almost there, he said as they reached a small access door. Beyond it lay Shuttle Bay 12. Olivia used her device one last time. The door slid open. Inside, 3 small scout ships waited. No guards were visible. Too easy, Green muttered, but they had no choice. They sprinted to the nearest ship. The door opened automatically. Inside, the controls were complex, but not impossible to understand. Green had studied the Aldarian transport that brought them to the mothership. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the bay. They had been discovered. Go, Richard shouted. Green fired up the engines as bay doors began to close. Olivia worked the weapons console, disabling the bay's security systems. The small ship shot forward, barely squeezing through the closing doors. They'll be after us, Green said grimly as he pushed the ship to full speed. We need to reach the jump point. Behind them, 6 Aldarian fighters launched in pursuit. Back on Earth, preparations continued in secret. Major cities maintained normal appearances, but key industries and people were quietly relocated to protected facilities. Military exercises were conducted in plain sight, using conventional weapons that the Aldarians would expect from a primitive species. The Aldarian ambassador watched these preparations with growing confidence. He sent regular reports to Krelvor. The humans prepare as expected. Their weapons are predictable. Their defenses inadequate. Deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, Dr. Donovan worked around the clock. His team had created a prototype quantum disruptor that could theoretically shut down Aldarian technology without harming Earth's simpler electronic systems. It works in tests, he explained to Vice Admiral Hernandez. But we need to try it on actual Aldarian tech. You'll get your chance soon enough, she replied. In space, Captain Green pushed the stolen scout ship beyond its normal limits. The pursuing fighters were gaining. I need a distraction, he called to Olivia. She studied the unfamiliar weapons console. I think this is a flare launcher. Maybe I can blind their sensors. She fired. Brilliant bursts of energy erupted behind them, temporarily confusing the Aldarian tracking systems. Green used the moment to dive toward the dark side of Mars, using the planet as cover. Their ships are faster, but they fly in standard formations, he observed. They've never had to chase anyone who fights back unconventionally. Richard pointed to a small moon ahead. Phobos. We can use its gravity to slingshot us toward Earth. They won't expect that maneuver. The small ship swung dangerously close to the Martian moon, using its gravity to gain tremendous speed. 2 Aldarian ships tried to follow and crashed into the surface. The others fell behind. We're going to make it, Olivia said, allowing herself to hope for the first time. Green didn't relax. Maybe. But we're about to bring the war to Earth ahead of schedule. As their ship approached Earth orbit, they sent a secure transmission. Home base, this is Firebird. We're coming in hot with company behind us. Vice Admiral Hernandez herself responded. Firebird, you are cleared for direct approach to Thunderhead Base. Your pursuit is about to encounter something unexpected. The stolen ship streaked through Earth's upper atmosphere, the remaining Aldarian fighters close behind. Suddenly, from a hidden base in the Arctic, 12 small Earth vessels rose to meet them. They looked primitive, but each carried one of Dr. Donovan's prototype quantum disruptors. The day of testing had arrived sooner than expected. The Aldarian fighters pursued the stolen scout ship through Earth's atmosphere with deadly focus. They had never failed to capture escaped prisoners before. Targets locked. The lead Aldarian pilot reported back to the mothership. Capture imminent. Then something strange happened. The primitive Earth vessels approaching them didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they emitted pulses of energy that seemed to do nothing at first, until the Aldarian ships began to fail. Engine controls went dead. Weapon systems shut down. Even life support flickered. The mighty Aldarian fighters became helpless metal shells falling through the sky. What is happening? Krell demanded from the mothership. Report. But no reports came. Earth's quantum disruptors had worked perfectly, targeting the specific particles that powered Aldarian technology. The fighters deployed emergency landing systems, simple mechanical parachutes that the disruptors couldn't affect. Captain Green watched in amazement as the Earth vessels escorted them to a hidden base built into a mountain range. Their stolen ship landed smoothly on a long runway that retracted into the mountain as soon as they were safe inside. Welcome home, said Vice Admiral Hernandez, waiting as they disembarked. You've been busy. So have you, Green replied, looking at the massive underground facility humming with activity. Dr. Bennett stared at the captured Aldarian fighters being towed into research bays. How did you disable their ships? Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Dr. Donovan stepped forward. They're advanced, but predictable. All their tech relies on the same quantum principles. They never developed alternatives because they never needed to. Richard Maxwell looked concerned. This is impressive, but the mothership alone has enough firepower to destroy every city on Earth. That's why we're not fighting conventionally, Hernandez explained. Come with me. She led them to the command center deep inside the mountain. A large screen showed the Aldarian mothership and the smaller diplomatic vessel still in orbit. In 10 days, their fleet arrives, she continued. But we're not waiting. Tomorrow, we implement the final phase of Protocol Thermopylae. On the mothership, Krell was furious. Not only had the humans escaped, but they had somehow disabled his fighters. This had never happened before. All species followed predictable patterns of resistance that the Aldarians had long ago mastered countering. Launch the diplomat's ship, he ordered. Demand their immediate surrender, or we begin initial strikes. The smaller Aldarian vessel descended toward New York once more. The same diplomat emerged, but this time his tone was threatening. Your primitive attempt at resistance has been noted, he told the assembled world leaders. Surrender now, or face immediate consequences. General Robinson stepped forward. We need more time to consider. Our world is divided into many nations. You have 24 hours, the diplomat said coldly. Then we demonstrate our power. As soon as the diplomat left, the world leaders received secure communications. Protocol Thermopylae was ready. The next day, precisely at the deadline, the Aldarian diplomat returned to his ship and sent the refusal message to Krell. The Supreme Chancellor immediately ordered a demonstration strike on an uninhabited area. Nothing happened. On the weapons deck, Aldarian officers frantically tried to activate their systems. The targeting computers were online. The weapons were charged, but nothing would fire. What is this? Krell raged. On Earth, Hidden facilities around the world activated Dr. Donovan's quantum disruptors at full power. The combined effect reached beyond Earth's atmosphere, creating a field that neutralized the specific particles the Aldarians relied on. In orbit and hidden behind the moon, Earth's small fleet of newly built vessels emerged. They didn't attack, but simply took up positions around the planet. Each carried enhanced versions of the quantum disruptors. Vice Admiral Hernandez opened a channel to the mothership. On the main screen, Krelvor's angry face appeared. "This is impossible," he said. "Your technology is primitive." "We were primitive," Hernandez corrected. "But we learned quickly. While you studied our weapons, we studied yours." For the first time in thousands of years, the Supreme Chancellor of the Aldarian Collective felt something unfamiliar. Fear. "This is your only warning," Hernandez continued calmly. "The next step is not something you want to experience." For 3 days, the Aldarian mothership hung silent in Earth orbit. Krelvor had sent urgent messages to the main fleet, ordering them to hurry. But he also began to consider something no Supreme Chancellor had done before: opening real negotiations. Meanwhile, the human delegation shared everything they had learned about the Aldarian Collective. Dr. Bennett's analysis of their language revealed critical insights. "Their entire society is built on control," she explained to the gathered military and civilian leaders. "Their language doesn't even have words for true cooperation or equality. Everything is defined by who commands and who obeys." Captain Green added, "Their military tactics are advanced but inflexible. They've never needed to innovate because no one has challenged them successfully in centuries." Richard Maxwell's contribution proved most valuable. During their captivity, he had carefully gathered information from other alien species. "Many worlds in the collective aren't willing participants," he said. "There are resistance movements on dozens of planets, just waiting for the Aldarians to show weakness." Dr. Donovan nodded thoughtfully. "So if we share our quantum disruptor technology, we could spark a revolution across the galaxy," Hernandez finished. The president looked concerned. "Can we defend ourselves against their main fleet? They still outnumber us thousands to 1. "Numbers won't matter," Green said. "Our approach to technology development was completely different from any species they've encountered before. They evolved in a straight line, perfecting one path. We explored countless directions, creating backups and alternatives for everything." On the 5th day, Krelvor requested a meeting. He was allowed to land with a small security detail at a neutral location in Switzerland. The Supreme Chancellor seemed diminished somehow, less imposing than before. "You have achieved what no species has managed in 10,000 years, he said stiffly. "The collective is prepared to offer real partnership." Vice Admiral Hernandez smiled coldly. "We're not interested in partnership with oppressors. We've already made contact with resistance groups throughout your territory." For the first time, genuine alarm showed on Krelvor's face. That would destabilize half the galaxy. "Perhaps it needs destabilizing," Richard Maxwell said. "We've studied your history. Your collective began as a genuine alliance, but became corrupted over time. The original founders would be ashamed of what you've become." Dr. Bennett stepped forward with a tablet showing ancient Aldarian text. "Your own sacred texts speak of harmony between worlds, not exploitation." Krelvor stared at the writing, truly shocked. "How did you access the ancient codes? They are forbidden to non-Aldarians." "We have our ways," Green said simply. When the Aldarian main fleet arrived 3 days later, they found a surprising scene. Earth was defended not only by its own vessels, but by ships from 6 different species, former collective members who had seized their chance for freedom. The Aldarian fleet commander was greeted not by surrender but by a unified message. Any aggressive act would trigger quantum disruption fields across all Aldarian-controlled space. Their entire empire would be paralyzed simultaneously. For the first time in millennia, the Aldarians were forced to truly negotiate. In the Great Meeting Hall of the United Nations, representatives from Earth sat alongside delegates from 30 formerly subjugated worlds. Dr. Bennett created a new translation matrix that prevented linguistic deception. Captain Green worked with military leaders from various species to establish a balanced defense force. Richard Maxwell used his diplomatic skills to help draft a new galactic charter based on genuine cooperation. Dr. Donovan found himself working alongside alien scientists, discovering that many had hidden their best innovations from the Alderians for centuries. Together, they began developing technologies that neither humans nor aliens could have created alone. The galaxy watched in amazement as a planet that had been unknown just months before became the catalyst for a new era. Many Alderians, especially younger ones, welcomed the change. They had grown uncomfortable with the Empire's methods, but had never seen an alternative until now. In the growing alliance of free worlds, Earth held a special place, not as rulers, but as the spark that ignited change. 1 year later, the galaxy was a very different place. The central chamber of the newly built Galactic Council headquarters on neutral territory near Alpha Centauri buzzed with activity. Representatives from 50 worlds gathered for the first anniversary of what many now called the Great Liberation. Dr. Olivia Bennett stood at the main podium, her universal translator allowing her to speak to all species simultaneously. Behind her sat delegates from Earth alongside former subject species and even reformed Alderian representatives. "A year ago, we were strangers to the stars," she said. "Today, we stand as equals among friends, not through conquest, but through cooperation." In the front row, Captain Green, now Admiral Green, nodded in approval. His Earth defense fleet had transformed into the Galactic Peacekeeping Force, with ships and crews from dozens of worlds. Richard Maxwell, serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, watched from his seat beside a young Alderian named Tevla, who led the reform movement within her species. Together, they had drafted new trade agreements that benefited all worlds rather than exploiting them. "The old collective claimed peace but delivered control," Bennett continued. "Our new alliance promises freedom and delivers it daily." The changes throughout the galaxy have been swift but measured. Dr. Donovan's quantum technology had been shared with trustworthy scientists from all worlds. Together, they developed safeguards to prevent any single species from dominating others again. Krelvor and his loyalists had retreated to a small cluster of systems where they maintained the old ways, but their influence waned daily as more worlds chose to join the alliance. Young Alderians especially rejected the imperial past, embracing the new era of cooperation. After the ceremony, Bennett joined her colleagues in the garden overlooking the starscape. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when we were prisoners on that ship?" she asked. Green smiled. "I hoped for survival. This is far better." Maxwell pointed to a group of children from various species playing together in the garden. "That's the real victory. The next generation won't know anything but cooperation." Vice Admiral Hernandez, who had traveled from Earth for the ceremony, joined them. "The President sends her congratulations. Earth's economy is thriving with all the new trade and technology exchanges." "And the quantum defense network?" Green asked. "Fully operational throughout Alliance space," Hernandez confirmed. "No single species controls it. It requires agreement from representatives of at least 5 worlds to activate." Dr. Donovan approached with an alien scientist, their discussion animated. "We're close to a breakthrough in faster-than-light communication," he said excitedly. The Zolarians had theories about it for centuries but were forbidden from developing them. As night fell, luminescent plants throughout the garden began to glow. The gathered representatives watched as ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through the nearby space lanes. On a distant viewing platform, an elderly Alderian observer named Jethrill watched the proceedings with mixed emotions. He had served the collective for over 200 years, believing in its mission of order and control. "They made us change," he said to his young assistant. "No species ever did that before." Was change not needed? The assistant asked boldly. The old Alderian considered this. "Perhaps. We forgot why we began the collective. Perhaps it took Earth to remind us." Across the garden, Bennett raised a glass in a toast. to unexpected friends and a future we build together. As the representatives of 50 worlds joined the toast, news arrived that 3 more formerly collective worlds had voted to join the alliance. The galaxy was healing, finding a balance that had been lost for millennia. Back on Earth, ordinary people looked up at the night sky with new wonder. The stars were no longer distant mysteries, but homes to friends and allies. Humanity had found its place in the cosmos not through domination, but through principled resistance followed by genuine cooperation. In schools across Earth, children learned a simple but powerful lesson. Politeness should never be mistaken for weakness, and strength means nothing without wisdom to guide it.